It's once again time to give the most casual and cold opinions on the world of professional wrestling and football. Open up that fridge and grab that very cold lasagna. Hey everyone, again, welcome to the Very Cold Lasagna podcast, the podcast housing a safe and casual open forum for cold, casual, and even the dumbest takes on WWE, All Elite Wrestling, and the NFL, and the world of wrestling and football in general. I am your host, DylanLasagna, and welcome to episode number 4 of this freezing cold podcast. Technically, I gotta be honest with you guys. It's technically episode 5 of the podcast, but as you guys see on YouTube, Spotify, or wherever you listen to this podcast, it's technically episode 4, because as you know, back when I did the pilot, I titled it episode 0. Now, why did I call it episode 0? You can go listen to it in back on YouTube or wherever you listen to it. But again, I called it episode 0 in a nutshell because, well, technically, I wanted it to be like a real introduction to who I am and what I want to offer to you guys for this podcast. And so far, I hope you guys are getting what I've been offering, and if not, sound off in the comments, whether it's on YouTube or on the other listening platforms, so I can continue to improve as we continue to proceed with this podcast. So continue to sound off in the comments, not with just feedback, but with your takes, your own opinions on the topics I talk about on each and every episode. Speaking of episodes, we got a good show for you all today. It was Championship Sunday. It was the eve of Championship Sunday. As I'm on the day I'm recording this. So we're going to be recapping both the NFC and AFC championship games. Both of those games had a different field for them. And then we're going to go around the NFL. There was a little bit of news that transpired. And we're going to give you an early preview of Super Bowl 55. I'm just going to spoil it right now. I'm not going to give you my pick just yet. You're going to have to wait till my preview for in a few days. And I think next week is when I'm going to do it. Literally the weekend before Super Bowl 55. So you're going to have to wait for my final prediction for who I think is going to win. And for all my wrestling fans, I'm going to be doing another episode specifically for you guys, because next Sunday, again, at the time of recording it, on January 31st is the Royal Rumble pay-per-view. So throughout this week, at some point this week, I'm going to be doing a Royal Rumble predictions picks episode. Again, as I mentioned last week, I have not watched the WWE in quite a while. So I'm going to go into this blind as hell. So we're going to be having fun with picking winners for mainly the Royal Rumble matches, and of course I want to talk about the other matches on the card. I think there's like 2 other non-Rumble matches that are on the card, like the world title matches, but I don't know, they just have not been. All I can say right now, before we move on, is that they have not been doing well to build up the Rumble like they have been with the previous pay-per-views. So, for all my wrestling fans out there, we're going to be discussing the Royal Rumble for a very specific episode for you guys this coming week. And if you missed any of the episodes of the podcast, I encourage you all to check out the Very Cold Lasagna YouTube channel, and make sure you subscribe there, and as well as clicking on the notification bell so you can be notified of all the vodcasts that are uploaded to the channel each and every week. And if you want to listen to it in an audio format, I encourage you all to listen to however you want to, whether it's Spotify, Anchor, Apple Podcasts. I'm available on all three of those listening platforms. So any way you listen to it and following it and subscribing, it means the world to me. And speaking of following, follow me on Twitter at Very Cold Lasagna. And again, your support, your viewership, your listenership, if that's a word, means the world to me, as long as with your feedback, as we continue to begin this journey into the podcast world. So, with all that out of the way, let's recap Championship Sunday in the NFL. It was a big. I'd say this is the most important Sunday in the NFL, because we're just literally. This is literally, I'd say, like, for kind of like using an analogy for WrestleMania, like to WrestleMania. The Championship Sunday is like the last stop before Super Bowl, kind of like how, let's say, literally the pay-per-view before WrestleMania is like the last stop before WrestleMania. So the Super Bowl, we still don't know who's going. So we have these championship games to decide who's going to be representing the AFC, and then who's going to be representing the NFC. We first start with the NFC side, and the 5-seeded Tampa Bay Buccaneers going to the snowy and cold Lambeau Field, and the number 1 seeded Green Bay Packers. It's cold as hell. It's cold as hell, and the Bucs know it. And I predicted on last week's show that the Packers were going to win by 6. And that was because that even though the Bucs defense finally woke up, they were going to be facing Aaron Rodgers, because prior to that, the Bucs defense faced Taylor Heineke. And in that game against Washington, the wild card, well, the Bucs defense managed to keep it close. They didn't do anything to shut down Heineke. And in the Saints game, they finally woke up, but then that was because Drew Brees doesn't have that same arm that he used to anymore, and they managed to get 4 picks out of him. But now they faced Aaron Rodgers, and of course, obviously, they faced each other in week 5 of the regular season, where the Bucs defeated the Packers 38-10. But since then, Rodgers in that offense has played different. The defense has played different. Again, as I mentioned last week, the Bucs found their footing on defense, and they're starting to gel together on offense. And I predicted that was going to be kind of like the AARP shootout, as I like to put it. AARP versus State Farm, as I like to put it. But in the end, I picked the Packers to win, simply because Aaron Rodgers is playing at a very high level, and nobody couldn't stop Devontae Adams, Marcus Valdes-Scantling, Aaron Jones, and of course, and with the emergence of A.J. Dillon and Jamal Williams, that 3-headed running attack, the Packers were playing at a very good level on offense. Let's talk about the game before we go into the final score, because, I mean, it was kind of like it was a battle. It was a battle of who really wanted this game. It was a battle of who really wanted this game, because the Bucs got the ball first, and they actually managed to march down the field, and on the opening possession, Tom Brady throws a nice pass to Mike Evans for the opening touchdown of the game. So they go up 7-0, and then a couple possessions later, the Packers drive down, and Aaron Rodgers ties the game to, I think it was Devontae Adams for the touchdown to tie it up. And then I don't remember if it was a field goal or a touchdown that gave the Bucs the lead back, but nonetheless, oh no, it was a touchdown. Sorry. So Brady immediately gets the lead back, and then it's 14-10 at the half. But at literally with like seconds to go in the half or before halftime. So Brady or the Bucs offense gets the ball back because Aaron Rodgers throws a pick at the end or before the end of the first half, and like Tom Brady and the Bucs are trying to get into field goal range. They do get into field goal range, but it's 4th down and they're thinking of kicking it, but they call a timeout, and Bruce Arians sends his offense back, and it's 8 seconds left, and they're just trying to throw. They're just trying to throw something. They just want to like go for one quick play, and all of a sudden, it's like Tom Brady finds Tyler Johnson for a long touchdown. And all of a sudden, it's 21-0. I mean, after the extra point, of course, at the half. And I was just like, who I don't understand. Who was assigned to cover Johnson? Who left him wide open? And that was just baffling. That was really baffling. That was really bad assignment. That was a really blown coverage there. And then we get to the third quarter. Things don't get any better for the Packers because on the first play of the opening possession, Aaron Jones fumbles the ball, but it gets knocked out on a tackle, and the Bucs recover it, and Aaron Jones doesn't come back because he's injured on the play. So on the next possession by the Bucs, following the fumble, Cameron Brate scores a touchdown from Tom Brady. So right then and there, it's 28-0. And on the Packers' next possession, Rodgers gets sacked. They got a punt. And fortunately for them, on the Bucs' next 3 possessions, Tom Brady throws a pick in each and every one of them. So they're fortunate for that. Also, on the first interception that Tom Brady throws, Rodgers scores it, throws it to, I think it's Devontae Adams or Scantling or someone. The Packers score a touchdown, but they don't get the 2-point conversion. So that sucked for them. Then Tom Brady throws another interception while Aaron Rodgers scores another touchdown. And so now it's 31-20. I can't do math. 31-23. So, 28-23. It's getting close to the point of, it's a 5-point game. The Packers are catching up. So, Brady throws another pick, and they march down the field. The Packers march down the field. They are in the red zone, but they have 3 straight incompletions with over 2 minutes left to go. And I don't know why they didn't do this. They have their franchise quarterback there. They have their top running back their second best running back, and A.J. Dillon, and also Jamal Williams. So they still have 2/3 of their rushing attack. They got Devontae Adams. So why didn't they go for it on 4th down? Why didn't Matt LaFleur go for it on 4th down? It's win or go home. You got to bring them big balls. They brought the big balls last week against the Rams. Why didn't they bring the big balls here? So I forgot to mention prior to that, when the Bucs didn't get a pick, didn't throw a pick, they managed to get a field goal, so it was 31-26. So now we're at the point of 31-23. So now we're at the point where Packers had to go for it on 4th down, but they didn't go for it on 4th down. They sent Macy Crosby out there with just over 2 minutes remaining, and he just kicks the field goal, and Matt LaFleur is just hoping that his defense can get a stop. Well, with near the 2-minute warning, they stopped them on first down, and I don't know why they did this after the 2-minute warning. They intentionally drew offsides. They gave them a first down. I guess it was to prevent themselves from using a timeout. So Tampa Bay gets a few short yardage, so they're at third down. But on third down, when Tom Brady goes to throw, he goes for Tyler Johnson, and Tyler Johnson, at first it looks like he flops. He flops like a fish. But no, it was actually the Packers, because there's a flag. They're called for pass interference because Kevin King grabbed Johnson's jersey. I mean, it still looked like Tyler Johnson was flopping like a fish, like, wee. But yeah, the Packers are called for pass interference, and even though they still have one timeout remaining, it was pretty much essentially over from there. So after 2 more plays, after Leonard Fournette converts the third down, it essentially ends it. That essentially ends it for the Green Bay Packers again in the NFC Championship game. Wow. Unreal. Unreal. Yep. What the F? Oh man. That was unexpected. I did not expect that result to come out of this game. I really thought the Packers offense would get the ball rolling. They would, Devontae Adams would have a good game, but no, the Bucs defense actually managed to contain. They've actually managed to contain Devontae Adams. They actually prevented Marcus Valdes-Scantling and Adams from getting open, especially in the game's critical moments where Rodgers needed them, and they kept running lanes closed. The defensive line kept running lanes closed for against Aaron Jones, Dylan, and Jamal Williams. So that was some really good stuff by the Bucs defense. Problem was for the Packers. The Packers' problems just didn't end on that decision not to go for it on fourth down. As I mentioned, the biggest thing that the Packers didn't do was capitalize on the interceptions more. They managed to make it a 5-point game, but they could have taken a lead on all 3 of those interceptions, and yet they didn't. They did not. I feel like the Packers got too safe on offense, which allowed Shaq Barrett to have himself a field day, sacking Aaron Rodgers, and pressuring him half the time. So I don't know. It's interesting. It was a really interesting game. It was it got really tight down the stretch, but in the end for the Packers, they just didn't capitalize. They just didn't capitalize on the turnovers Tom Brady was making. And speaking of Tom Brady, man, I don't know what happened in the second half when he threw those turnovers. 2 of those turnovers that he made, those were throws that he didn't need to make, because one of them was thrown straight in the arms of the defender. The second one was a high pass to Mike Evans, and the third one you just yeeted it to the defense. So other than that, the Bucs defense played. The Bucs in general actually played it like they wanted this game. They really wanted to win this game, and as I mentioned, they played motivated so they can have the Super Bowl on their home field. I mean, it was already on their home field when the NFL decided, but they wanted to play. They wanted to become the first team in NFL history to play it at home. So, even though Mike Evans didn't have the greatest game, Tom Brady still got help from Godwin, Tyler Johnson, Cameron Brate, and even though Rob Gronkowski was silent for a lot of the game, he made a critical catch for first down. So, it's the critical catches that matter in the critical yardage that will get you a first down, that will get you the win. And also Leonard Fournette, he got key yardage on running plays, including a few first downs to see late, especially in the third down situation after the 2-minute warning to essentially seal the NFC title game for the Bucs. So, again, I think the player of the game for the Bucs is Shaq Barrett. He sacked Aaron Rodgers 3 times, and he pressured Rodgers into throwing it into a tight Bucs secondary, which practically nearly shut down Davante Adams from getting open. So their hard effort is why they're going to the Super Bowl and being the first team in NFL history to actually host the Super Bowl. Now, as for the Packers, I feel like this was their best chance to really make a statement and really, really go on and really get over that hump of the NFC title game. Really move on to the Super Bowl. I don't know what it was this time. I really the pieces were there on offense, but I feel like it was the defense that just didn't get it done. Last year, when the Niners played Aaron Rodgers, the problem was Rodgers just couldn't escape the defense. This time, the defense couldn't generate any pressure on the opposing offense for the Packers. So it's a darn shame that the Packers can't get over the hump, especially when they have one of the greatest quarterbacks to ever play. But it's just how many more chances are the Packers going to get for Aaron Rodgers to finally get at least a second ring, to get to a second Super Bowl? And he mentioned this countless times during the Fox broadcast. It's been almost 10 years since the Packers were last at the Super Bowl, when they last won, when Rodgers last won his first and so far only championship ring. So at some point, that window is gonna eventually narrow. So the Packers got to get him some more help, especially on the defensive side of the ball. Unfortunately, as a casual, I don't know what they can do to beef up that secondary. But get a better corner. That's not Kevin King, because he got burned twice, and he committed that glaring pass interference call. So that was a bummer. But other than beefing up the secondary, maybe get Davante Adams, another receiver, a number 2 receiver, because that's all Aaron Rodgers can honestly throw to. Davante Adams. I mean, Marcus Scantling shows up here and there, but Davante Adams is honestly Aaron Rodgers' only receiver right now. And I don't know if Aaron Jones is a free agent this coming offseason, but if he is, then I would re-sign him too. I would re-sign him, because that running core needs to be intact, because they got something there with that 3-headed attack. But Packers went 13-3. They had the best chance to go to the Super Bowl. but unfortunately, their defense decided not to show up today. Especially with the 3 picks they got off of Tom Brady. They just didn't take it. The offense just didn't take advantage of it. So they got to do something. The Packers have to do something in the offseason. Otherwise, they're just gonna continue to waste Aaron Rodgers and their opportunities to get him another ring. So now we had the nightcap of the AFC championship game. The Buffalo Bills went to Kansas City to take on the Chiefs on CBS. Now, my big storylines were here. How healthy was Patrick Mahomes going to be into this game? Literally a day after last week's episode went up, Mahomes was cleared to go. He cleared concussion protocols. Doctors cleared him to go. And so that pretty much rendered my other storylines about Mahomes and the Chiefs meaningless. But there's still things to talk about with this game because the Bills needed to play their best football on literally all sides of the ball because they're going up against pretty much the best offense in the NFL. They had to deal with Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce, and if he played, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, pretty much, and Patrick Mahomes too. So they're gonna have to deal with a lot of that on defense, but on offense too. You needed Josh Allen to have a really good game to counteract Mahomes. You'd have to constantly throw to Stephon Diggs, Cole Beasley, Deshaun Knox, a suddenly surging I forgot his name, Davis, the rookie receiver, but they were gonna have to have a really big game if they wanted to, they wanted to have a chance at an upset. And I said if it would be a tight battle, but I went with Chiefs or Bills by 3 because I honestly thought like these 2 teams were playing their best brand of football, because, well, you got 2 good quarterbacks, 2 good offenses, a defense in the Bills that was finally that finally had its best performance of the season against the Ravens last week, and they could have carried that momentum going into this game. So that was something that I was kind of looking forward to into this game. But unfortunately, you'd think that the final score 38 to 24 would think that it would have been like an all-out fight. But unfortunately, it was very far from that. It was very far from an all-out fight between the Bills and the Chiefs. I will say though, the Bills got off to a good start. They managed to get an opening field goal. They should have gotten a touchdown on their opening possession. They also took advantage of a muffed fumble by McCole Hardman, the punt returner, and they took advantage of that by converting it, by having Josh Allen throw to the tight end Deshaun Knox for a touchdown, but they missed the extra point, so it was 9-0, and that's where the good times for the Buffalo Bills ended, because the Chiefs would roll over the Bills from that point onward. The Chiefs controlled the tempo, first downs, and the lead for much of the first half and eventually onward. They attacked the Bills' run defense with Clyde Edwards-Helaire, who was cleared to play. The Chiefs helped McCole Hardman redeem his confidence on the on a touchdown in that same possession, on the Chiefs' second possession of the game. And throughout much of the first half, and eventually in the second half, they attacked the Bills' non-existent secondary with wide open passes to Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce, Hardman, and Byron Pringle, and a bunch of other running backs and receivers that they had in the Chiefs' arsenal. So, pretty much the Chiefs ran over the Bills in this game, but at the same time, the Chiefs secondary also shut down Diggs, Beasley, and the rest of the offense, and they sacked Josh Allen for a lot of lost yardage. So they sacked him way back. So, like, for example, they sacked him for like 20 yards, so it ended up being like a third and like 30 something at one point in the game. And that Josh Allen can't do that. He needs to throw away the ball when he needs to throw away the ball. Even if defenders are closing in on him, just throw away the ball, like onto the sideline, out of the pocket. But it was 21 to 12 at halftime, and from there you'd think that the Bills would make some halftime adjustments to hopefully get back in the game and hopefully try to make an upset. But no. The Bills secondary still performed like dog shit, pissing all over the bed. They allowed a big Tyreek Hill run after showing promise on the Chiefs' opening possession by holding the Chiefs to just 3 points on their opening possession. But on the Bills' next defensive effort, again, they allowed Tyreek Hill to go for a 71-yard run, and they allowed Travis Kelce to score a touchdown. And then on the Bills' next possession, Josh Allen throws an interception in the red zone, and Travis Kelce proceeds to score a touchdown on the Chiefs' possession following the interception. So by this point, the Chiefs led 38-15 in a game, well, that turned into a blowout, and Jim Nantz and Tony Romo were already talking about Patrick Mahomes versus Tom Brady for the fifth and likely final time in the game that matters most, the Super Bowl, on Tampa, on the Bucs' home turf. So, while they were still talking about that, the Bills tried to make it interesting. They tried to make the score a little more respectable very late in the game. Josh Allen marched the Bills down the field and got Isaiah McKenzie a garbage time touchdown. They tried to get 2 points, but they failed. But they did manage to get a successful onside kick, the first one since the 2014 NFC Championship game in the playoffs, and the first one since week 2 of the regular season. But they only managed just a field goal. So that's your final score, 24-38 in favor of the Chiefs. And that game, I bet I don't watch like sports media all that often anymore, like First Take, Undisputed, Sports Center here and there. But I bet they were clamoring at this matchup. They were salivating at this matchup. It was like, oh, Josh Allen versus Patrick Mahomes. Who's going to win this matchup? There's going to be a shootout of the brightest and youngest quarterbacks of the future. But, man, this is a big-ass disappointment, especially by the Bills. The Chiefs, you already know they were going to freaking beat you on the ground, in the air, with their litany of receivers, their litany of running backs, and, of course, Patrick Mahomes, who's just too good. And the secondary actually showed up in this game. They actually shut down the Bills receivers. The Chiefs front four pressured Josh Allen all game. He managed to get pressured into mistakes and get sacked into a lot of lost yardage, like I mentioned. And that's why the Chiefs are going back to the Super Bowl against the GOAT for the arguable, that's to be arguable, Tom Brady and the Bucs. But we'll talk about the Super Bowl shortly. But let's first address some offseason needs for the Bills because I want to talk about their offseason needs because they need to upgrade. One of the things that they need to address is the secondary. That secondary needs a lot of work, big time, because if you didn't watch this game and you thought the Bills secondary was good, yikes, go watch this game. This game was the biggest example of why the Bills front office needs to use this offseason to address its defense. Last offseason, they did a really good job in addressing the offense. They Josh Allen all these weapons with Stephon Diggs, and beefing up the offensive line. John Brown came back. Cole Beasley came back healthy. And look what it did to the they addressed that side of the ball, but unfortunately the defense sucked ass, especially in this game. So now what the Bills need to do this offseason is address the defense. Start with the secondary. Get a lockdown corner. Get a big name safety. Get a good linebacker. Get a good anything in that secondary, because on national television, your secondary just got exposed like dog doo-doo. So upgrade the secondary. And as for another need, maybe they should get another defensive lineman or an edge rusher to beef up that front four, because they did not get any sacks besides the Ravens divisional game. I mean, they got one sack on Patrick Mahomes too, but they didn't lose any yardage on it. And last but not least, at least in my opinion, for what the Bills need this offseason is probably another running back, because Zach Moss, Devin Singletary, they're just not enough to balance the running attack for the Bills, because this season you pretty much had Josh Allen do all the running for you. So they need to balance that. And with the passing game, so they can be even better next season. So they can eventually get back to the Super Bowl for the first time in, I think, since '93. But yeah, Chiefs are moving on, and now we're going to talk about the Super Bowl. Now this is a rematch from week 12, I believe. Week 12 of the regular season. The defending, reigning, undisputed AFC, not just AFC, but Super Bowl champion Kansas City Chiefs are going up against the hometown Tampa Bay Buccaneers. It's going to be held in Raymond James Stadium, not just the site of WrestleMania, but the site of Super Bowl 55 on CBS, on the brightest national spotlights. And again, this is a big game for both teams. But some of my storylines here, again, the Bucs are going to be the first team in NFL history to play the Super Bowl on their home turf. Now, the question is, can they follow that up by making more history, by actually winning it all? To start, they're going to have to get Tom Brady to take care of the football and have that offensive line protect Tom Brady. So we'll start there with some early stuff. And as for the Chiefs, they're going to have some work to do to repeat as champions on both sides of the ball. As for the offense, how much confidence should we give the Bucs secondary when it comes to limiting the Chiefs offense, because that Chiefs offense looks very unstoppable right now. The early favorite is the Chiefs, by the way. Because again, the Bucs were able to contain Devontae Adams, Michael Thomas, whatever was left of the Washington football team offense. But now they're going to have to contend with a better, stronger, faster offense that they had to deal with back in week 12. Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce, McCole Hardman, Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Fortunately, I guess you could say fortunately, they have a litany of receivers of their own, but their quarterback is older. So the Chiefs secondary will also have to do their part too. So can they shut down Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, Cameron Brate, Rob Gronkowski, Antonio Brown, Tyler Johnson? Can they shut down the running game too? So a lot of questions a lot of storylines that are going to be addressed in this game in 2 weeks, and it should be interesting when we talk about it again, when we revisit it, when we do the final Super Bowl picks when that episode comes. So that's your Super Bowl matchup: the Kansas City Chiefs going up against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers on CBS. So we'll be revisiting this matchup when we do the actual final Super Bowl preview in a few days next week. So that should be fun. So to wrap it all up, I want to go around the NFL, and I want to issue a correction. On one of my latest around the NFL storylines that I made prior to this news being broken about the Philadelphia Eagles. This is about the Philadelphia Eagles, and this is they hired Nick Sirianni as their head coach. They made it official earlier today, at the time of this recording. So literally a day before, like, I recorded last week's episode the day before Nick Sirianni was rumored, then officially hired as the head coach. This was sourced by the likes of Ian Rappaport, Adam Schefter. I was like, oh my god, really? But I wasn't going back. The episode's already out, so I'll take an L for this. I'll take the L. But Nick Sirianni, I was like, who is this? But I would have thought that the Eagles would have hired Josh McDaniels. They would have gotten Josh McDaniels from the Patriots because he was he was at least the favorite to get the gig. But I guess they just went with some random guy. They just went with some random guy that I don't know. Has he had any head coaching experience? I don't know. I really don't know. And in some other NFL news, the former first round pick from 2019 and former Washington football team quarterback Dwayne Haskins. You all remember? Hey, Washington fans, you all remember Dwayne Haskins? He signed with the Pittsburgh Steelers. So honestly, I hope he gets his head straight mentally and emotionally, and I hope this is the place that he does that, because Mike Tomlin is head on, I hope he gets his head, Mike Tomlin gets his head straight, because he needs a training camp on maturity. But I think this is a good opportunity too for Haskins to learn under Tomlin and Ben Roethlisberger if he plays next season. But Dwayne Haskins with the Steelers, we'll see how it goes. Let's just hope that Haskins doesn't do anything stupid, because he's just lucky. He's very fortunate that another team was willing to sign him. So Just hope that he doesn't waste this second chance that he's got. Otherwise, he's not going to get many more chances like this. So he shouldn't screw this up. And in our last topic for today, I want to talk about Matthew Stafford. Yes, the quarterback from the Detroit Lions, because it looks like both him and the Lions are ready to move on. Now, for all you Matthew Stafford fans, I know it's tough. I know you feel heartbroken. I know you feel betrayed that Matthew Stafford would want to trade. But again, he felt like, as if the reports are indicating by Schefter, Rappaport, the other NFL Network insiders, he felt like it was time to move on. Like, especially with the indication of the the new general manager, the new head coach. He felt ready. And look at it this way. Come on. Ever since he was drafted number 1 overall in the 2009 draft, other than Calvin Johnson, has the Lions really given him any help whatsoever on offense or defense? Has the Lions really given him some help? But even then, it's like, you can also look at it on the other side of the coin and say, even if he didn't get some help, he became Pat Stafford. So, I think this is the best thing for both parties to do. Just, they mutually agree to part ways. Now, because of his injuries in recent years and Matt Stafford's age at 32, and now that he's asking for a trade, or both teams are asking for a trade in this case, both parties that are gonna work out a trade in this case, his trade value is not gonna be like a Deshaun Watson in this situation, or at least I don't imagine it to be. So with that being said, I want to do a little fun thing. I want to do a little fun thing that some people like to do too, and that is come up with some realistic kind of situations where teams could land, where Matthew Stafford could land, which teams could possibly, but also realistically, trade for Matthew Stafford, and try to come up with some realistic trade packages for him too. And if I'm too outlandish with these picks, or too outside the mark with these packages, then let me know. Let me know what your trade packages for Matthew Stafford would be, and which team do you think he would go to? Because again, these are just my opinions, And again, I'd like to hear from you. So let me first start with the Indianapolis Colts. The Indianapolis Colts I think would be a great place for Stafford to go. I'll get into that in a second. But for the Colts to get Stafford, they have to give up a 2021 first rounder, a third round, and 6th round compensatory picks. But in return, they get not just Stafford, but a future third round compensatory pick. Now, why do I say the Indianapolis Colts? Well, Phillip Rivers just retired after just one season of playing with the Colts. But you also have to consider Phillip Rivers played 16 seasons since being drafted in 2004 with the Chargers, and he unlike Tom Brady or Drew Brees, he was on the wrong side of 39 when he retired. He didn't have that arm strength that Brady has right now. So even though the Colts went 11-5, Phillip Rivers retired. So the Colts need a quarterback, and Jacoby Brissett is an unrestricted free agent. But even if you want to re-sign him, he is not a viable starter, as indicated in the one season prior to getting Phillip Rivers. So the Colts also have the offense. They still got T.Y. Hilton. You got Jonathan Taylor On offense, Naeem Hines. And if you get another receiver to complement T.Y. Hilton, you could be a team that competes for a Super Bowl next season. And not only that, you also got a defense led by DeForest Buckner. That will get you a Super Bowl. But if you got to address the QB, who's going to be your QB in 2021? I don't think they can address the QB situation in the draft because, let's be real, they're 11-5. They're in like the early to mid 20s in the NFL draft because they went 11-5 and losing in the wild card round. So the best thing they can do is trade for. I think they have the best situation to trade for Matthew Stafford. So, and also gives them the best situation. Like, you already got a team built around him, and like both on offense and defense. So the Colts should be in a really good situation for Matthew Stafford. Another team that could trade for him, but it all depends on another certain situation, is the 49ers. What would it take for the Niners to trade for him? The Niners could give up the 43rd overall pick, their third round compensatory pick that they've been getting a lot of. And here's the catch. This is why I say this trade may or may not happen. They may package a player. They may package a player to go to Detroit, and I think that player will be Jimmy Garoppolo. Because like if they get Matthew Stafford, then it's all likely that Jimmy Garoppolo is not going to be with the 49ers in 2021. So why not convince Jimmy to waive his no trade clause and put him in a package to send him to the Lions, and in return you get Matthew Stafford and either a 2021 or future second round pick. So why the 49ers? Well, just like with the Colts, they got a Super Bowl caliber defense when they're healthy. On offense, you also have playmakers there in George Kittle, Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk, Raheem Mostert. As we've seen in Super Bowl 54, they were just a quarterback away. Jimmy Garoppolo disappeared in the fourth quarter. Don't let that 22-8 record fool you. That's just a stat, Niner faithful. It's just a stat. The biggest asset about a quarterback is not just their skill set, because that's great, but the biggest asset is their durability and their availability. I like Jimmy's personality, in all honesty, but the biggest problem is he's not there. He's not healthy. He can't stay healthy. He's not there on the field playing for us. So I think Stafford is, again, he's not the best upgrade, but you're pretty much trading for a better deep ball. You're also trading for a quarterback that can move outside the pocket, that can throw outside the pocket, and he can get you back into the playoffs too. The only thing that can stop this trade from happening is if Garoppolo doesn't want to waive his no trade clause. So it all depends. This I'm not saying this trade won't happen. It all depends on on if Garoppolo is included in this package. So we'll see about that. Also included are the Jets. The same deal with the 49ers. Pretty much second round pick, third round pick, and Sam Darnold. The Lions will be getting, and pretty much Jets would be getting Stafford. I don't know why I wrote Darnold here again. But then nonetheless they'd be getting a second round pick. So they're just pick swapping. The Jets could also be a player, but it would also depend on new head coach Robert Saleh. If he wants to move on from Sam Darnold. Like with Stafford, Darnold just hasn't been given much to work with. He hasn't given much to work with in terms of receivers, running game, defense, and, well, he's had Adam Gase as a head coach. So that's something you don't want to have. So it all depends on what Robert Saleh wants to do at quarterback. And we'll find out in the coming months on what he wants to do. But Jets are an option. The Patriots are also an option, but they'd probably have to give a lot more than the three teams I already mentioned. But they would need... They're another team in need of a quarterback because Cam Newton was generally ineffective. Not only because of a lack of a receiving core, but he just looks washed up. He looks very washed up as a passer. So getting Stafford with upgrading the receiving core would help New England get back into as a wild card, at least for 2021, and then in 2022 they can go back to hopefully contending for the AFC East. But I don't know. It depends on Belichick too. Would he rather have Stafford, or would he rather have the best remaining quarterback prospect using the 15th pick in the draft? It depends. Now, my last team on this list is the Broncos, the Denver Broncos. And I put them on here because I think they have the easiest chance to land Matthew Stafford. But although I say easiest, I'll actually get to that in a second. All they can do to get Matthew Stafford is simply swap their first round pick with the Detroit Lions. And why the Denver Broncos? Well, although they have Drew Lock, the front office, which just got a new general manager, John Elway, stepped down from managerial duties. They might be growing impatient with the 2019 second round pick. So even though they might be growing impatient, we have to keep in mind that his second season in 2020 was marred by the pandemic. Not just by the pandemic, but his top receivers, tight end, offensive linemen, key defensive players, especially with Von Miller, and himself suffering injuries. So not everything in, I would say a slight regression, was his fault, was Drew Lock's fault. So if the front office doesn't believe that Lock isn't the answer, then they can, I still believe they still keep Lock, but I think they still make the trade for Matthew Stafford by simply swapping picks. And including Stafford going to the Broncos. So by swapping picks, it gives the Lions an even better opportunity to draft the third best remaining quarterback prospect in the draft. Because again, it gives them 2 spots to get to that spot. And then the Broncos can use that 9th pick to get Stafford some help. Whether it's a lineman, a defensive player, or whatever whatever position they need to address. So those are my teams that I think have the best but also realistic shot to get Stafford in a trade this coming off season. But who, in my opinion, will win it? I think it's either coming down to the Broncos or the Colts. So as I mentioned just moments ago, the Broncos have the simplest and easiest offer to give to the Lions. But here's the catch. They have a bunch of glaring holes on the team to address. That's why they've had a losing record ever since Peyton Manning retired following Super Bowl 50. And they've had a revolving door of quarterbacks ever since then. And just like with Washington, they somehow can't lock that down. The Colts, on the other hand, have a team ready for Stafford to go on a deep playoff run. And yes, while they do have to give up a couple of picks to get Stafford, I think for the Colts it'll be worth it. The trade cost to get Stafford will be worth it for the Colts especially for Stafford's playing ability. Another team that you could look out for is the Niners. As you're just simply swapping Jimmy Garoppolo's contract for Matthew Stafford. But again, it just depends on whether or not you offer Jimmy Garoppolo in the trade package as well, and if he agrees to it too by waiving his no trade clause, or you outright release him to make room for Stafford in a trade package. So a lot of moving parts in this Matthew Stafford saga. So it's going to be interesting to see what comes of it. But not only that, we got the Super Bowl coming up in 2 weeks' time. We're going to do the Super Bowl preview in next week, next Friday. Hopefully it comes out by then. Then we also had the NFC, AFC championship games. 2 games with contrasting styles. I think the NFC championship game was very interesting. AFC, not so much. But what are you going to do? Kansas City is going to light up your ass if you don't counterpunch them in the face right away. But either way, your Super Bowl matchup is set. After Sunday, it's the Kansas City Chiefs reign defending undisputed Super Bowl champions, looking to repeat against the hometown Tampa Bay Buccaneers, playing in their home stadium. So it's going to be an interesting one. So thank you all for tuning into this very crazy episode of Very Cold Lasagna podcast. A lot to digest into. Coming up this week, we got another episode for y'all, for all the wrestling fans out there, casual, core, hardcore, very blind, Royal Rumble predictions, picks, all that. It's gonna be fun to talk about wrestling again. I haven't done that in a while. Royal Rumble is this Sunday, live from the Blunder Dome. So it's gonna be interesting to see who wins it. But we're gonna be talking about that in another episode coming up this week, and I can't wait to do that. But anyway, everyone, thank you all for watching this episode of Very Cold Lasagna. I am your host, DylanLasagna. Make sure to follow me on Twitter. I'm at DylanLasagna, and as well as at Very Cold Lasagna on Twitter. And if you want to watch more of this podcast in this podcast, and I have a little extra as well, follow me. Follow me on here on YouTube by subscribing, tapping the notification bell, so you'll be notified of every podcast I upload here on the channel, as well as listening to me on Spotify, YouTube, Anchor, and Apple Podcasts. So support me in every way you can, especially as we continue to grow this podcast for the casual by the casual. And keep that lasagna very cold, and keep your takes on sports hot and very cold. And I will see you all in the next one. Take care, everyone, and have a nice day.